What happened is the voice. If we could capture the voice.
Yeah. Oh, with the speaker.
Do you want to try it? Yeah, because with the mask, I don't.
You just hold it.
Everybody.
Just turn it on. So.
Yes. On.
I'm gonna make the joke about the app. But you guys think you know how to use an app?
Oh, okay, so that's good. Maybe it's pretty strong.
That's the first bad joke today. Hopefully they'll look to the left at some of them. No? Tough crowd. Wow, Frank. Oh my goodness. Hey everybody! This belongs to Michael last second. How's it going? You gonna start off?
Yeah, maybe I just start. So let's get started. This is Professor Nate Zapia, is the co-founder of Gaarden. And today we have is the other co-founder, Michael Top. Excellent, Michael is here. And he's a previous student, I think, that you worked as a students together, so see some time professors. And Professor Zapia and I have worked on different projects, and I'm always very excited to work with Professor Zapia because he's a very entrepreneurial faculty at CISA. We have this stereotype of history professor, and he's totally the opposite. He's constantly thinking about new things, new ideas. And another thing that he does that is remarkable, he always likes to involve people in his projects. Not only these projects, he has students involved, but many of these projects are very community-oriented, where in fact these projects are benefiting lots of people. So whenever he does something, I'm more than happy to join. And in fact, one other thing that is quite remarkable is he does start things and he completes things, which is something that is not that easy. I know many of you have tried to become an entrepreneur, and it's very, very difficult. And it's even more difficult to start and then go through the hurdles and eventually end up producing something. So I think this is quite remarkable. And it does many different things at the same time. This was even a project I didn't know, so I'm guessing there are other projects that you're working on. So thank you for choosing us every time, for helping you. We're very delighted. So we'll be working for Gaarden, which is your new, one of your newest projects, which you started a few years ago, so it's coming to fruition now. So just tell us more what it is.
Thanks, Frank. I learned everything from you. That's number one. As you know, your primary professor is also incredibly entrepreneurial, curious, and that's why we hit it off when I first came here. Frank is someone who you've all learned this, and Michael as well when we came here. Folks who answer emails, those are the ones when you invite them and they answer and they're interested, you go with that. So I think that's any businesses you start. That's the way to really go. Whether it be a partner or a vendor, whatever your field is, just go with the folks who are really the most interested and curious and have an abundancy mentality, which we talk a lot about. I think that's one of the lessons. So this project, thank you for having us. It's really an honor. It's really, and Michael's going to also say the same thing, of course, and give us a more in-depth tour. But it's really an honor to be here, to be part of this project. I work at the Institute for Sustainability. Has anyone heard about that at CSUN? Only a few of you. So maybe by the end of the semester, there'll be more of you who are curious and want to check it out. We've got a half-acre farm that we manage. They went into the Sustainability Garden /farm up by the athletics.
I asked last week if anyone knew of the type of things that you're doing, and in fact, this gentleman there has been working with you.
I forced him to plant coffee, right?
Yes.
So we can talk about that. So yeah, we have a coffee orchard. Has anyone heard of the orange orchard up on? I know I'm supposed to be talking about open garden, but I think you got to just talk a little bit about it. This is the problem with history. This is the stereotype about history professors. So.
Oh yeah.
And the grandpa jokes too. So, but have anyone heard of the orange orchard on campus? The 5 acres. So yeah, about 400 citrus trees. We're planting a coffee orchard there. This starting this semester. So we're gonna have 100 coffee plants, a polyculture orchard. We're hoping our goal will be to have a Matador brew in about 5 to 7 years, where you can drink coffee at the Freudian sip, your favorite coffee at your cafe on campus, and it'll be from beans that we have grown roasted and harvested and roasted here on campus. So, and that's all student. It's kind of a student-led kind of combination project. And we also have a hydroponic farm. Has anyone heard of the freight farm? Has anyone? I think it's probably. Hey, listen, class, this is fantastic. Freight farm is a 2-acre hydroponic farm. It's 2 acres of growing production space and a 10 by 40 shipping container. So it's the size of this, this space right here that we're standing around in. It grows 2 acres of food. It's been here since May. We're growing up to 4,000 head of lettuce a month. So it's a serious farm, and it uses a minuscule amount of water. It's a entrepreneurial space, so you're all invited to, if you're interested, come, get my email, check it out. Michael, we've got through recently. It's an amazing space. So we're involved in a lot of different projects, and this is one of our, we're hoping to be one of the big projects that you'll all be part of and you'll all help us with. So this is about, almost 3 or 4 years old. Our third member of the team, Richard Lee, he's our IT guy. He works at Microsoft, and so he built with the team in India, built the infrastructure for the app. Maybe anyone downloaded the app or try to download the app? Oh wow, okay, good. So maybe hopefully by the end of the class, that you'll have down. Hopefully you'll get a sense of what it's about and what you're, how to get familiar with it. So the app is just launched really about maybe in earnest, yes.
It didn't let us download it.
Oh, okay.
It says we need to change our region or country.
Okay.
Did anyone succeed? Anyone succeeded?
Did anyone succeed? No. Okay, so that's good. That means that all of you are right and then we're wrong, so we'll fix that. We'll talk to Rich. We'll get to the bottom of it. So that's good that, there's a shared thing. There's one quick fix. Anyway, the app is really, it's about connecting you, the user, with Gaarden, with growing spaces, with nature, with the environment. And started with LA, focused on LA. And when you get to download the app, you'll see, and Michael will talk about, we have thousands of unique locations now. Over the past couple of years, we've really expanded it. And now we're in this phase where we're at a decision tree right now. We've got some success, we've got some grants. Michael has been managing a big team, and they've been putting in all this data, and now we're kind of like, okay, well, what's next? How should we grow? It's the typical point of any business. You don't know which way you can go, this way or that way. So then I immediately thought of Professor Vignetto's class, and we've your fellow colleagues in past semesters have actually done incredible consulting for us for the freight farm, for instance, and we've adopted some of those recommendations, so hopefully the same thing will happen with Open Gaarden, and for the Institute for Sustainability itself. So we've been through this phase a few times, and it's really rewarding. So I'm looking forward to hearing your advice, your creativity, your energy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the project. Get that thing out. I'm going to get in the corner now. So thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Matt. All right, so Open Gaarden is essentially an app that we've developed. So it's an app-based research project. It's really focused, as Matt was saying, on connecting communities together through user-sourced and geolocated data. It's a really fancy way to just say that we're essentially a giant map that tracks out all types of farming or food production in Los Angeles. So that could be urban farms, community gardens, nurseries, botanical gardens, arboretums, essentially anything that touches on food production. So the goal is to understand how those are located within the community and how the distribution of those resources could inform public policy or research or anything like that. So we really want the public and society to reimagine what growing food looks like, and we're trying to provide them the tools and the resources to make it happen with the app. So Nat talked a little bit about the three of us, our team. So Nat is the founder. Richard Lee is our tech guru. He's the one that developed all of the kind of tech background to the app and the functionality. And then I came on, and as Nat said, I lead the student intern groups through historical research, and I'll get more into that in a sec. So this is right now what our app looks like today. There's been a couple changes since this slide, but basically each one of those pins correlates to a different type of garden that we have mapped out. So each color is either a school garden, community garden, whatever it is. And so that particular map is just showing actually Pomona, but if you were to go all around, the map is essentially worldwide. So we have over 3,000 data points all across the world, a ton in South America, some in Australia, Africa. So there's a lot of different mapping going on. We are focused in the greater Los Angeles area, but just wanted to throw that out there that there's kind of this potential kind of background to it. So just to kind of reiterate, that's some of the garden layering that we do, the data layering, just different garden types. This is just a small subset of what we're doing. So we do have, basically we add to this list every month, it feels like. So just recently we started tracking out beekeepers as a unique layer. We started tracking volcanic green space in South America. We started tracking aquaponic gardens. Aquaponic gardens all across California and the US. So just always adding to this list, just showing that the potential for what we're tracking is always shifting. And this is kind of an example that a keen-eyed viewer saw the historical garden up at the top there, last slide. And so historical garden is what I was getting into before. We take student intern groups, do historical archival research to find where green space or food production was happening in the past. So we map all that out. We kind of juxtapose that to the current modern map of where these spaces would be. And then we try to connect the two stories together, right? Was this a vacant lot? Or excuse me, was this a citrus farm that became a shopping mall, became a vacant lot, could maybe become a citrus farm again? So we're kind of trying to connect the history with the future of each individual space that we track.
Let's jump in.
Yeah, of course.
And so, one of the ideas, it's kind of like a time machine almost. So our original, and we'd still, if we get more money and depending on where we're going, does anyone use AR, augmented reality, where you kind of use your phone and then like
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go, yeah, exactly. So that's it's like that, but with gardens and again, food producing spaces and nature and the idea of things being hidden in plain sight. That's kind of what we're trying to get at least initially, and now it's. Then the idea was even for like chefs, let's say, who wanted to locally source, let's say, lettuce from a neighborhood in LA, and then they could actually, you go to the urban farm, and you kind of let the person who's consuming the lettuce at the restaurant, they'll pay $15 extra because then they'll go to the app, they look at the site, and they can actually see what like Michael was saying, the past and the present kind of coming together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to that point, we're definitely trying to, as we were saying, connect communities together. So with now I was saying about chefs, we'd love to have a world where chefs can go on our app and track, the lettuce I want to buy is coming from this local farm, the tomatoes I want to buy from this urban farmer, tomatoes or peppers from this farmer, kind of differentiate where they're getting their crop from and really hyper-locally understand how food is moving throughout our society. So this is, just really quick back to it, this is the back end of the app. So I included this just to show two things. One, we have the ability to export or import our data at will. And so fancy way, again, of saying that we can essentially partner with different municipalities or nonprofits pretty easily, being that if they have a data set of gardens, we can just take their data set and plug it straight into the app. Or if they wanted our data set, we can just export it, send it over to them really, really easily. So this was a way to just facilitate partnerships with different entities as we move forward. And then another reason that it was really beneficial was the COVID, was the pandemic, unfortunately. So that back end allowed us to go fully virtual. So a lot of our work, right, you'd imagine we want to go to the farms, we want to get in the dirt, but COVID made that a difficulty. So when we were able to pivot fully virtual, we kind of developed this new program of having students work remotely, find the garden spaces, and do things that way. So we allowed ourselves to keep moving throughout COVID, which was nice. So this, right now, if anyone, we were a little late to send the email out to Dr. Vigneron, I'm sorry about that, but this is the website of our current website, www.opengarden.com. It is live, so you can go and check that out if you guys want a little bit more information or a little more background to what we're doing.
I think they did. Because what happened is I gave it to them the first day.
Oh, perfect.
Because Nate, you actually gave it to me that day. So
Excellent.
they all
Okay, so
they all have looked at it.
Yeah.
Perfect. One of the tabs on there is the Partners tab. So really quick, I just want to point that out, that we do already work with a couple nonprofits. We've tried working with municipalities, academic researchers, academic professors, people like that. We've already started to move around with this app and see that there's a lot of support and a lot of value behind this project. So we are really, really excited to see what you guys come up with, like Matt was saying. This is
I know
gonna
you
be
gotta
really,
say, get that picture off the website.
Yeah. I love the picture. All right, go for it.
By the way, real quick, we do know how to spell two A's. Open Garden refers to our other co-founder Richard Lee used to work for a company tech company based out of Copenhagen, and they use two A's. They use either the A with the dot over it, or they use two A's in garden. So that was kind of our.
So essentially, it's Danish for farm. Yeah. Gaarden is Danish for farm. So it's kind of a play on words for open farm.
Yeah.
But another reason I should say that we're Open Garden is we're really committed to open source.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was getting at with the import-export function. We really are trying to make it so that users can come in and utilize our data for whatever purpose that they want to. Be that research, be that policy making, whatever they think that the value is to them.
Yeah. So real quick, so some of the past grants, so the money we received has been through these kind of more social science oriented grants. Initially, we were thinking of it as purely a business, like a for-profit kind of connecting chefs with food producers. That's kind of how we were initially thinking, or some version of that. And now we're realizing it's become more, and we could go back to that or pivot to that, but the audience, the money has come from folks interested in policy making as a policy tool, food justice, food insecurity. We've got grants from the Haynes Foundation, which is a LA-based social science policy research think tank foundation, and also we got money to use the app, working with, as Michael mentioned before, Pomona. We did a kind of deep dive into Pomona and their food and their food system there, and use the app as a way to connect these different nonprofits and urban farmers and school gardens, kind of the whole ecosystem. So that's kind of where we have. That's where a lot of the energy has gone. So we've actually folks from Dominguez Hills, Cal State Dominguez Hills, is a graduate level class, a master's in public administration class that has used our app every semester for the past 3 years. Done like a research project to identify food insecure parts of LA using the apps, and kind of research how to kind of shift policy to meet those gaps.
Mm-hmm. So this is what you meant when you said you're at the crossroad.
Exactly.
Where you could go this direction or you could go that direction.
Exactly.
Very much so. So we've, in the last couple, I'd say probably a year and a half, we've pivoted heavily into what Nat was talking about, kind of seeing ourselves more as a marketing tool for social change. So really trying to use our data, use our app, use our vision to enact change in society to make things either more equitable or just better for everyone.
And once you all will, and again, as soon as we finish class, we'll talk to Richard, figure out the detail, how to work through the snafu, and you'll be able to download it. You'll see that, like any good piece, like any app, it's about data, right? The more data and the more work Michael has done with all of the unique entry, all the thousands, 3,000 or so entry points, that's the more useful it is as a tool. Now that's why we're kind of like, well, how can we harness that and go, which way should we go, that kind of thing.
So just kind of add to that point, this was just something I literally typed this up yesterday, so just what tomorrow looks like for our app, for our project. Some of the things we've talked about, obviously, are the data accumulation, what I was just saying, just getting more and more data, enriching that data, getting to the point where we have the oral history interviews on the app, where we're telling the story of farmers who are involved in the farming practice. And then we can also show data relationships. So really what we're getting at there is this idea of, imagine juxtaposing a map of these gardens with a map of the diabetes rates in any given society, or the map of carbon sequestration, or water evaporation, or heat sinks, or anything like that. We can find a lot of these geographic data relationships if we, to Nat's point, have a robust enough data set. So oral history interviews are just sort of another thing that we do on the historical theme. So we'll go to the farmer, we'll actually sit down, we'll get a video, audio recording of them telling us their story. What brought them to farming, how they got to this point of where they are today, and what kind of lessons they have on their end for society. And then we've also considered, this is not on there, but playing with the idea of kind of creating a farmer library of knowledge. So imagine you search up, I live in LA, how do I water my plants? And you can see 5 different farmers in LA responses of how they've accomplished that problem. So it's kind of just, allowing more access to farming for people. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, what we want to do with what we're thinking, another one of these, inflection points or decision, whatever. Qualitative, there's quite a few apps that do. It's called one called Crop Swap, for instance. That is all. It's straight up commercial. It's connecting.
Can you say the name again?
Oh, Crop Swap. So CROP.
Crop Swap.
SWAP. So
Okay.
Crop Swap. Yeah. So yeah, if you check your apps, you can download it. And it's all about connecting. Someone's got 10 bushels of tomatoes, connecting them with another farmer, or another kind of swapping crops. So it's very transactional. They've got their own. We've talked with them, and they have their model. Or like Michael said, that we have this qualitative component that I think is actually could be. People get excited, and there's quite a few apps that do all qualitative, that only oral histories, and it's very kind of humanities focused or whatever it is that's not has nothing to do with any kind of data or commercial kind of thing. So we're wrestling with that, trying to see how we can synthesize those two strong points that we have for the happy thing.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, we're not trying to be an app that has just a ton of oral histories that are just kind of out there with farmers telling you things that aren't really connected. We really want to connect their story to the real space that they're operating in, the real food way that they're interacting with. So to that point, partnerships. That's something we really wanted to do and we are doing in the future. We're constantly looking for new nonprofit, corporate, academic partners, and that's something that we foresee ourselves doing in the future. Community-driven events is something that we've talked about and really wanted to get into, which is essentially, just like it sounds, just going to an urban farm, setting something up with the local community, and getting people to come out with their families and really get their hands in the dirt. Experience for themselves what this is all about, and we find that that's extremely powerful for people. And lastly, we've already started doing this, so again, sorry we couldn't get the app working, but we've already started to translate the app into a couple different languages using like Google Translate technology and stuff. But we have Armenian, Korean, and Spanish right now. But we're still wanting to expand that, obviously, to include more languages, but then also to include things like the what's the language? The Oaxacan, the Yucatan language, a lot of the Zapotec language, a lot of the tribal languages, a lot of these kind of endangered languages also. So finding a way to sort of bring in digitizing lost history in some ways into the project. And then accessibility to that point, we want to make our app ADA compliant and also just compliant across the spectrum. So we want to make it so that any person doesn't have any barrier to accessing the knowledge that we're trying to give them. And other than that, does anyone have any questions? I haven't stopped yet, so I've been talking a lot. Does anyone have any questions yet? Go for it.
Can users currently upload their own data points and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yes, we are, right now it is trying to work towards a user-based model, which means the user downloads it, goes around the city or into their personal space, adds the garden through the app itself, and then that's what populates the data set. To the personal garden point, we do have private gardens added. They are hidden differently than the rest of them, so there's not like sending your address out there on the app and things like that. But that's a really good question. Hopefully I answered that.
So currently they can?
Currently, yes. Users can. Right now, there's not really a heavy user base,
Right.
so we're sort of at that phase. But yes, we're going to, yeah, we're heading towards that user-based submission. We want more users to add gardens in.
And it's quantitative data for right now.
Yes.
Maybe qualitative data as well eventually.
Exactly. So right now we're definitely, like to your point, we're more quantitative. We're more looking to just kind of get and see what's out there. We don't really know right now. But as we kind of go through our data, layer, piece by piece, keep circling back, we keep enriching the data with more and more information, more and more of that qualitative data that we
Yes,
want.
because the interview could be the people doing self-interview, and that would be
Yeah, exactly.
That's
We're
good, yeah.
trying to have a bunch of models. We're
Yeah.
thinking of how we can generate the users to provide us the information that we want, that we need.
How are you like verifying the data? Like how can you confirm there actually is a farm where it's being?
It's a great question. So a lot of it right now is Google Maps. Honestly, that we use basically me and a lot of other student intern labor to go through and vet all the gardens that come in. Thankfully, we don't have enough of a user base right now that we're not seeing, tens of thousands of gardens coming in, and that's not really such a problem now. But we will definitely have to figure out a good system for that. So far, though, we've been able to, I've vetted through all of the existing data that we have. I've gotten rid of all the ones that were not accurate, verified that they were accurate. So now it's just whatever's added needs to be verified. But that's a really good question. Right now, it is user-generated data. So like Wikipedia, like any of these user-generated things, there's always that risk of dishonest, inaccurate information.
We've developed there's a couple of, the typical report spam type of thing, so if you get on there, and so we rely on that as well. But quality control, especially with the historical data, the quality control is built in terms of, right now, at least the students who are doing it are history students, and then that's part of the, history students doing the research, that's part of the, when you put that, when you see the app, you'll see it'll be kind of self-evident, like the links to the footnote and that kind of thing. So it's almost like a train, an information, a trail rather, right? So you can actually find and verify the information. So that's kind of where we're trying to, that's where we have to get eventually, especially as it grows.
Definitely. And how often do you update the information? Like let's say one farm previously only sold cabbages, but now it also does tomatoes.
Excellent question. That's something that we're working towards, we're thinking through as we develop the user base. So right now it's on the user to kind of come in and to re-upload whatever they're changing or doing. And we've seen that happen with photos particularly. People come in and just add new photos or as the harvest develops, they'll add more photos in. But we're definitely trying to figure out a way to incentivize people to revisit the same site that they added.
The return users are so key. And I love your point, because we didn't get to show you on the slide deck here, but Michael and Richard have been working on expanding the input. What do we call it? Your input.
Backend?
What's that?
The backend?
Not the backend. When you're I take a picture, I'm adding my info. What do we call that?
The description. The attributes of the garden.
Yeah.
We've worked hard to kind of flesh those out further to have more and more data points that we ask the user to generate for us. So to the point of inaccuracy, we're still trying to figure out the balance between
check on the information monthly, every 6 months, yearly?
Good question. No, right now we don't, I guess. That's a really good question. That's something that we're going to have to revisit probably sometime this year. So we haven't had enough time pass yet, I think, that we haven't hit that issue, but that's a really, really good point. I love the way you're thinking. So definitely we're going to have to do that soon.
Other thing, return user, that's been and this is maybe an ask or a challenge that you can help us with, is how do we get the return user, so it's not just use it one time, oh yeah, I see a garden here, and then that's it. That's the perennial for any app. It's about the, someone's going to go back and change their, I have this now, and then make it easy for them to, which season, kind of more choices. So we talk about that all the time. It's making more choices in the menu without it being so overwhelming that you can't even, that the app won't even work because it's so clunky and that kind of thing. Right? It doesn't have to take over the whole space.
And then for the app, do you have a feature where you can make your own account in it and then see some stuff local to you? Or when you travel, it updates to your new location and gives you notifications?
Again, great questions. Right now,
we came to the right place.
Yeah, right. No, right now we don't have user profiles. That's something we are working currently to develop. So trying to figure out how we could. Right now, every user is anonymous. Essentially, we don't track metadata, nothing like that. So we're trying to figure out building out profiles for people and then figuring out what that would look like.
And then make specialized profiles for chefs versus businesses.
Exactly.
That's the key. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. To the point. Yeah.
Initially, we had it hooked up to I think Facebook or Instagram, and from some folks were basically no one's going to sign up. I forgot we just decided that remove that when you get on the app to log into your Facebook?
Yeah, to incentivize
Yeah.
more users to join, we essentially removed all barriers to
Yeah.
just jumping into the app and starting to use it. Because we found that the login process, the sign-up process, I'm sure some of you have experienced that, where you download an app,
Yeah.
you want to use it, you just want to check it out maybe, and it tells you to sign up, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, forget this, I'm not doing it.
Also,
So,
are all your features then free?
yes. For currently, everything in the app is free. We have no built-in monetization in the app. Any other questions? Yeah.
I have the app downloaded, and when I open it, all these icons appeared, and I was wondering if you have like a legend saying like what the icons mean, like what you.
No, great point. Right now, that's something we're still working on. So we're actually working with the IXLA team, the Intersect LA team on campus, and they're working to kind of flesh out our user interface for us, to build that legend, to fix the color scheme, sort of make it less, as you've experienced, I'm sure, overwhelming when you download the app and open it and you see all the thousands of data points that pop up in your face and you're like, holy, whoa. So, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're still working on that for sure, but it's definitely, it's nice that you can get the app though.
Yeah. You didn't have any issue.
I think the problem was that we probably sent out an older QR code or an older download link. We've since updated, and we update probably twice, 3 times a year right now. So the length, the download link probably changes. Yeah, question info.
Yeah, I was wondering, you mentioned like users and then farmers and stuff. Like, what's your actual target market for the app?
It's a great question. That's something that we're really struggling with right now to figure
I
out.
guess that's going to be our job.
I think that's that's what you guys
So,
are mostly telling us.
Just that's a very good question, because I've done more than 1,000 of these projects with different students, and oftentimes I've done it with, I don't want to insult anyone, we just between each other, but with students I would call junior, meaning this is the first time they do this, or the very first time that they do this. So I give you an example of what I did for a company called Procter & Gamble. So everybody knows Procter & Gamble, right? And we did it for this company, and what we are looking at is the fact that they have one product, which it's a dishwasher soap. So dishwasher soap, 99.9% of the people have a dishwasher soap, because that's what you use to wash your dishes. And most people, something like 89% of the people, think that the bottle is unattractive and ugly, and they wish it was somewhere else in the kitchen or not visible, or it was pretty. So that project was given to us, and therefore the students had to find what should the bottle look like. And this was maybe 15 years ago. I was right here, and I spent a month and a half, maybe 2 months, telling the students, please, for 2 months, stop designing bottles. For 2 months, stop designing bottles. Because who designed the bottle? Normally, it's not the marketing people. What the marketing people is, they first find out what do people like about bottles, what they don't like about bottles, and then they come up with a list of description. Then they take that list description and they connect it to the type of people, the different targets. And then what the students were supposed to do is they find which targets they want to focus on, with which specification descriptions, and that was the project. Then you take this project and you give it to a designer, a bottle designer, who actually take the description for the target and then design the bottle. So same thing. 10 years ago, right here, was a student that came to me at the end of the class and he said, Professor, I have a project. I want to create a company that's going to be selling solar panel. And I said, how are you going to call it? Pick My Solar. And I said, okay, we'll take you next year to be the project for this class. So you are a student, come back next year. Maybe you know, now he's one of the most famous business students at CSUN. He was right here. He was, 25 or whatever? And he said, what should I do? We say, we're going to tell you who wants to buy solar panel on the internet. So back 10, 12 years ago, there was not an app. He was creating a website. So he showed us his website. It was a rough website. And then we told him who were the target. So we're not website designers. We're not bottle designers. We are not application designers. What we do is we identify the target. And once we identify the target, we are the ones that are going to be the best at figuring out what the target wants. So we say, here's 3 targets. Here's what each of the target wants. And this is why they want it. And then that's given to an engineer that makes application, and then they design it. So I know I'm going to spend at least a month for everyone to understand me. But you're not supposed to say, oh, this icon is too big, oh, this color is too green, oh, this should be at the bottom and not at the top. This is not our job. We're not designing the app. What we are is we are identifying the target. Should the target be men? Should the target be women? Should they be young? Should they be educated? Should they want to spend money? Should they not want to spend money? What is it that they want to use this for the most? So our job is to get close to understanding who is the best target to start as of right now, and how we see the evolution of who this should be for in the next 2-3 years, but not designing the app. So again, we did not design the app, the bottle for Procter & Gamble, or we didn't design the website for Pick My Solar, is we just told him who were the targets, and in fact, he took the report and then he brought it to Los Angeles, and they gave him $350,000 for his project at the time. So he was very happy. He was a client.
That's what we want to do.
He was very happy. So, but you see, in marketing, this is not a design class. This is not an app development class. It's a marketing class. So you have to understand that there's different roles in a business, and our role is just to see who should this be for. Okay. But can we make recommendation in terms of the design? Since we've been talking to the target, and the target have told us, I like that, I don't like that, of course. There will be recommendations for what should be changed on the app, but not from our point of view, but from the point of view of the target that we have identified. So as a marketer, you don't give your opinion, you're sort of the mind reader of people. And you select the people that you want to sell it to, and then you read their mind, and then you report what you read from their mind. That's your skill. Sorry, I had to interject because I want everyone to, because I know there's going to be a lot of criticism of the app, which is okay. But the problem is by doing this, I know the students are going to waste a month thinking their job is to be the customer and saying what they think of the app. No, they have to find the customer that the app should be for, and then torture the mind of these people. Don't torture your own mind. So now, can you go into your mind and think about what you would like? Could I be a potential target? Yes. And then do the brainstorming from your own internal review. Everybody does start that way. But like for example, could I market women lingerie? I could market. I don't wear women lingerie. But I could market it. But what I would do is I would go into woman's mind, I would find the information, I would find the different targets, and then make it for these people. So in marketing, you have to learn to put your feet in someone else's shoes, and then try to read their mind. So that's what we're going to be doing.
And perfect. And this might help too, that some of the initial targets that we ourselves identified were some of the policy makers that we talked about, so municipal leaders, politicians, people who kind of decide things in our society. We've looked at academic researchers, even professors, so people who wanted to write a book with our data, right, understanding the foodscape of LA, they take our data and write a book about it. We've looked into farmers, right, what value does our app bring to the farmer themselves, and that's something we've struggled with and talked to them a lot about. And then I think we've
thought about chefs.
So a bunch of different audiences that we've kind of debated who is our target audience, and we've struggled with that to answer that question for ourselves.
And you'll see that now. There's lots of, and now we have 4 languages on it too. So now that's the other component that's good. Determine who's going to use it the most, perhaps.
So now the question is, how much money do you have into it? How much money do you have to invest? Because that's going to give us some kind of guidance. And you may not be able to answer today, because you may say, I need to look into it. So there may be questions that we'll have in 2 or 3 weeks, because we've been looking around this and thinking, and students are going to work in groups, so they're going to be having discussions within the groups. So I may come back with a list of questions. So instead of you all going to go to Michael or Professor Zappia, what we'll do is I will collect the question from all the groups. And then once I have all the questions, I will give it to you. So you'll have probably 1 page, 2 pages of question. So it would be more organized. Then I will get your answer for each one of the questions. And then I will send it back to all the groups. And we may be doing this in a month or something like that. But that comes very quickly. Is the question about what is your budget that you may have? Because launching an app, I've done several apps as a client. And the first hurdle is to get people to the app. And unfortunately, getting people to the app, that's 10 times more expensive than anyone thinks.
Than the app itself.
Than the app itself, exactly. And that's the biggest problem. And people think, and I think we were talking about this together last at the end of the class when I was telling you that it's more expensive to sell. No, I was not with you last week or 2 weeks ago. I was telling you people don't realize that getting people to the app is more expensive than developing the app. And so oftentimes people think developing the app is going to be the big money they need in order to invest in it, but it's actually getting people to the app. And then getting them back to the app may be even more expensive. And then you've only been spending money. Where do you make some money? So you may have institutionalized money, but that goes so far.
It's not sustainable. It's application. You gotta ask for it.
Yeah, it comes sometimes it doesn't come, and then you run out of it, and then you run out of air, and the project sort of stutters.
Exactly.
So that's my perspective. Another thing that I see that happens a lot, and we'll have discussion with the students many times, but before you go, there's this thing about parsimony. When you have something that tries to do so many things, then you sort of scatter yourself, and it is very difficult to be successful. So oftentimes what you have to do is say, okay, this is all the things we could be doing, and just be selective. And doing multiple languages, for example, I'm blown away that you did that. But I think
French is going to be next.
But it would be great. I think it will work. But I would love to see maybe this app to be very successful in SoCal before even going anywhere else. Because I think there's a beta testing, and there's all of this when you're doing at a lower level. But then you have multiple languages and all of this. Unless there's some reasoning behind where we find that the people that really want to be looking for open gardens in LA tend to be Armenian for some reason. And then you go, okay, it's English and Armenian for that exact reason. But if there is no reasoning, I think it's an expense of resources and energy. I think it's much better to be focused. And then it's hard. I know it is very hard, but there's a lot of parsimony that needs to come. So we're going to try to look at that to have more of a canon way of going versus a shotgun, because it'd be maybe giving you back more return.
Definitely. We've right now we are a shotgun blast. We've definitely functioned by pushing ourselves out forward in whichever direction offers the least resistance. So we've done the history stuff, we've done food insecurity in Pomona, we've done just researching. We've chased grants and things. So we're right now, as you kind of saw from the presentation and just a little bit of where we are, we're sometimes all over the place a little bit, but we're trying to figure out the kinks in our app, trying to figure out the user experience right now, I think is what our focus has been for the last month or so.
What I would say is, I know your question real quick. What I would say is that what I think we keep coming back to that I find the most, and again, it's all not about what we find, it's about what, like you said, the audience is the location, the precise, being able to be in a location and connect in a way, look at it and click on it. I think there's something. You can do that with Google Earth, I guess, with Google Maps, but it's adding a little bit more to that I think we want to play with. That's my keep coming back to it.
Have you been able to see if males have downloaded that more than females, or vice versa?
Interesting. No, I don't think we have that information. What we do have is just sort of the metadata of who downloads it. So we have seen a trend of people downloading the app and retaining the app, which is nice, not just downloading it, checking it out, and deleting it. So that's always nice.
Yeah.
But right now we don't have that knowledge yet. That might come when we develop the user profile, so we can see who is doing what, and that way we'd be a little bit more informed for you. But right now we don't. Go over. Yeah, Pat, sorry.
No. What is your current user download amount? Like, how many people have downloaded the app?
Great question. Less than 300. For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a handful. It's not a lot at all. So the most people, I would argue, the most people who are downloading the app right now are doing it because they're either students, interns of ours, or because they know us and support us. Or it's very hyper local right now.
So right now,